and then as people come in, they can join in, because I think we do have a lot of good content to run through. So I'm going to just do some quick introductions here. Andy is going to share the PowerPoint with us. Oh, sorry. So we're going to be looking at a slide deck as we go to hear from the different folks, but I just wanted to thank you all for being here on a Friday afternoon. Definitely a different format than when we initially planned on this. This is our second year in a row to run this info session. And previously, we've had it up in one of the 401 rooms in Tippy. And this format actually might be just as good, if not better, to get into from people that have expertise in lots of different areas of law admissions and law experience in law school. So I'm Jennifer Blair. I'm the one that sent the invitation out to pre-law students, and I'm the Associate Director for Advising in the College of Business. And so I know some of you, I recognize many of your names. And one of the things that I have done is just to help coordinate pre-law advising in the College of Business in kind of an informal way. And one of the ways we do that is by hosting this session that's specific to people that are studying business. And so I will introduce folks according to the tiles that I see them in. So I'm going to start at the top left and work right. And so we have Dr. Andy Hosmanic, who many of you would know for teaching intro to law, but has both a JD and a PhD, and is going to share some information about law practice and also combined degree programs between the College of Law and other colleges. And then to my right, in my view, is Amy Best, who's Director of Admissions at the College of Law and is a wealth of knowledge on the process of applying to law school and how selection process works. And Catherine Resler is the Coordinator of Pre-Law Advising in the Academic Advising Center and is a wonderful resource for those for undergraduate students who are preparing to go to law school. And we'll talk about the pre-law advising at Iowa. Starting on my second row, Brian Farrell is a lecturer in law at the College of Law and is also, you're going to have to help me, Brian, but are you a director of the Center for Human Rights?
Associate Director of the Center for Human Rights.
And both about the certificate rights, and then he and I are going to talk a little bit about Iowa's 3+ program between Tippy and the College of Law. And then we're also joined by Professor Jason Rantanen, Professor of Law in the College of Law, and also the Director of the it's IBAL, Innovation, Business, and Law Program.
Yes.
And is going to specifically talk about law school with a business lens, some of the business slanted opportunities at the College of Law. And so I think we can go ahead and kick off, and we're going to hear from Catherine first, kind of going in sequential order of how you would do this, thinking about it as an undergraduate student and what resources you can utilize as an undergrad with a pre-law designation.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. As Jennifer mentioned, my name is Catherine Ressler. I'm with the Academic Advising Center in the Pomerantz Advising Center, and I coordinate pre-law advising for undergraduate students at the University of Iowa. One of the first things that we talk with students about as they're preparing for choosing majors and thinking about preparing for law school is making choices that are good for you versus being concerned about what looks good. Oftentimes students will say, well, I should be this major because that's what law schools are looking for, or I should be involved in these activities because that's what law schools are looking for. But law schools are looking for a diverse range of applicants. They're looking for people that have experiences in a wide array of areas. And so we really want you to think about, what do you like? What are you good at? And what would you do if you didn't go to law school? So in terms of choosing a major and choosing extracurricular activities, it's wise to think about all of the areas that interest you. If you were to delay and do law school later, maybe take a gap year or two, what would you do in the meantime? What kinds of careers would you want to explore? If at some point down the road you decide that you don't want to attend law school, what are the careers that would fit your major choices? And the same with extracurricular activities, thinking about what appeals to you, what do you enjoy, and what could you develop leadership opportunities in, and ways to develop and build your resume and skills, versus thinking about, well, I should be in a club that focuses on law or politics or something that might look good. Thinking about what is good for you, what is the best choice for you. We also encourage students to declare pre-law as early as possible. That way you'll be assigned a pre-law advisor over in the Pomerantz Center. And we encourage students to meet with their pre-law advisor at least once a semester, typically at the start of the semester, so that we can talk about what are the things that you're doing this semester to prepare for law school. And that could be exploring majors, thinking about extracurricular activities, talking about how to build relationships with instructors so that you have quality letters of recommendation down the road. Also talking about how to develop your personal statement, which they'll talk about further in this webinar. Also thinking about fitness for law school, GPA, and all of the things that you need to be concerned about as you move through the process to be admitted to law schools or to apply to law schools. So each semester we map out a plan of things that you'll be doing that semester to prepare for applying to law school. We also help students establish contact with law schools and other professional activities that can help you learn more about law school and more about the legal profession. We have a number of sessions that we host in the Academic Advising Center about preparing for law school. In the future, we're going to host some workshops on your personal statement. We also coordinate with the Career Center to help host the Iowa Law Expo, which will be next September 21st, if everything goes according to plan. The Iowa Law Expo is a chance to meet with law schools from across the nation, as well as to attend different sessions about preparing for law school, writing your personal statement, paying for law school, and a variety of other topics. There are other opportunities throughout the semester, each semester, to attend other things. Having a pre-law advisor will allow you to get emails and information about all of the events that are going on campus that can help you prepare for law school. We also have Phi Alpha Delta, which is the pre-law fraternity on campus. They're an excellent organization to help you learn more about law school and the legal profession. They regularly host talks with professors, with lawyers in the community, and other organizations that can help you prepare for law school. So we really encourage, if you are at all considering law school, to please declare pre-law, have an advisor assigned, and meet with that person regularly so that you can learn about all of the opportunities and the things that you can be doing to strengthen your law school application.
So this is Amy, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about the law school application process. So there's a couple of things that I always recommend you kind of know firsthand when you're thinking about applying to law school. Some of the skills that you're going to use a lot in law school are problem solving and analytical reasoning, communication and interpersonal skills, leadership, teamwork. And these are really the skills that we're looking to see that you've started to build and that we're analyzing when you apply to law school. So the Law School Admissions Council, or LSAC, as they're known by their acronym, is basically your one-stop shop for the law school application process. They administer the LSAT, which is a standardized test for law school entry. They also run the online application process, which consists of the Credential Assembly Service, which is their tool for compiling and reviewing transcripts and letters of recommendation, as well as the online application portal, which is where you would fill out an application form for a law school and upload your supporting documents. So their website is lsac.org. I definitely recommend bookmarking this, setting up an account whenever you're seriously considering applying to law school, because you will do pretty much everything related to the law school application process through their website. The most important piece of advice that I can give you is to start early. So law school applications work on a rolling basis, which means that the later you apply in our admission cycle, which does run over the course of the academic year, the more competitive it is going to be to gain admission. And the earlier that you can start on this process, definitely the more chances you have for success. You don't have to start really early. I would definitely encourage you, even early in your career to start, like some of the opportunities that Catherine mentioned, with getting connected with Prelaw advisors, attending the programs that they run in the Academic Advising Center for Prelaw. Definitely start exploring law school early. You don't necessarily have to start on the application process, in your freshman or sophomore year, but definitely thinking about it by the time you're in your third year or early in your fourth year is really beneficial. And the law school application consists of generally 6 pieces. That's all that we require at Iowa. Some other schools might have some different things, but these 6 pieces are the core of the law school application, and I'm going to go over them in turn. So the first is, of course, your LSAT score. And LSAT, as I mentioned, is the standardized test for law school entry. This upcoming year, the 2020 to 2021 academic year, the LSAT will be offered 8 times. Over the past few years, it's kind of varied from 6 to 9 times a year. So you do have a number of different opportunities to take it. One important thing to note about the LSAT is that LSAC does run their own test administrations. So you're not going to a testing center to take the LSAT. You're registering through the lsac.org website, and they'll have locations available where you can take it on the specific dates that they're administering it. The exam is taken on a tablet, so it is a digital exam. The LSAT consists of 5 sections that include different sections on logical reasoning, analytical reasoning, and reading comprehension. There is a writing portion to the LSAT that is administered separately, so you don't take that with the administration on test day. You do that later on your own. I would recommend to complete the writing portion before you get your score back, which is usually about 2 to 3 weeks after you've taken the administration. Even though you technically have a year to complete the writing, I definitely would give yourself a self-imposed deadline for completing that. And the writing portion is proctored. A couple things to note for the LSAT. So as with any standardized test, you want to create a study plan and effectively prepare for the exam. Time management is important, as it is with any standardized test, because you of course have a limited amount of time to complete each question. So when you are preparing, I always recommend doing some timed exercises to help you build that comfort level with answering questions quickly, in addition to correctly. Creating an organized study plan of any sort will be really helpful in going to take the test. There's lots of different options for studying. You might know the University of Iowa has an LSAT prep course through the philosophy department, so that is available to you as a university student. The LSAC has partnered with the Khan Academy for free online training, so that's another great option. And then there's, of course, the commercial test prep companies all have LSAT preparation classes. There's some that are specifically for the LSAT. You can always study on your own. There's really no one right way, as long as you do take that time to prepare and study for the exam. It is completely fine to retake the exam. Obviously, I don't think that's what anyone intends to do going in, and certainly not what I would anticipate planning for. But one thing that could be helpful is to try to take the LSAT a little bit earlier than you otherwise might, to leave yourself time to potentially retake it. Currently, we're seeing about half of all test takers retake the LSAT, so that's very common and certainly doesn't look strange if you do decide to retake the test. At Iowa Law, we do take your highest score. The other numerical indicator is your undergraduate GPA, and we consider your LSAT and GPA in combination, which means that a higher GPA can balance out a lower LSAT and vice versa. There's a lot of different LSAT and GPA combinations that can make you a good candidate for admission. We place our emphasis in reviewing your LSAT and your GPA as roughly half of the emphasis in reviewing your application. So these are both really important pieces of the application. Transcripts go through the Credential Assembly Service. I mentioned that tool for compiling transcripts and letters of recommendation. And when LSAC obtains your transcript, they actually do their own GPA calculation. I always point this out because they analyze things differently than how the University of Iowa might analyze things on your transcripts, for example, which means that when the Credential Assembly Service calculates your GPA, it might be somewhat different from how the University of Iowa or other institutions you've attended have calculated your GPA. I realize this sounds a little bit strange. It's very useful to us in law school admissions because it basically creates an even field for all law school applicants and allows for simple comparisons across different institutions. But it can look kind of strange to you when you're used to having your GPA calculated in a certain way. We do look at your transcript to get information about the courses you've taken and how you've done in specific types of courses, what your major is, kind of the general trends across time. It's pretty common for your average GPA to increase throughout your years in college. And then of course your undergraduate institution. And all of this information provides a lot more context to who you are as a student, the skills that you started to build academically while you're in college, and how those skills are going to help you potentially succeed in law school. Then we use the other pieces of the law school application to give us more information about your qualitative skill set. And there's a number of different avenues through the law school application that we use to get more information about your soft skills and those non-numerical indicators for success. One of those are letters of recommendation. Usually a law school application is going to consist of 2 to 4 letters of recommendation. We require at least 2 at Iowa. And the letters of recommendation are our chance to hear from other people who have evaluated your work. Academic references like professors and teaching assistants, or professional references like managers and supervisors tend to be the strongest and most common recommenders, since they have evaluated your work and they're also unbiased sources of information. One key piece of requesting letters of recommendation is to do that early. You don't necessarily have to do it, again, really early, but I would definitely give your recommenders several weeks to write their letters. Often, this is something that you're not really considering in the law school application timeline, and then applicants are waiting for their letters of recommendation when they're otherwise done with their application. So that's why I would recommend requesting them early so that you're not waiting for the letters of recommendation to come in as the last piece of your application. Your recommenders might also want to meet with you or ask for more materials, so it's good, again, to give them some time to write the letter. The personal statement is the required essay for the law school application. And your personal statement is your chance to tell your story, your motivations for law school, your goals, your accomplishments. It's a great way to share information with the admissions committee that we're not otherwise going to learn from your law school application. There's a lot of specific information that we request directly through other pieces of the law school application. This is really open-ended and a chance to tell us more about who you are and what motivates you. Most applicants are focused on the content, of course, kind of deciding what you want to write about. I understand can be particularly hard, but I would definitely encourage you as well, don't ignore the writing piece of the personal statement. We are reviewing it as an essay and as your kind of a writing sample for law school. So you want to make sure that it's in really good shape in terms of grammar and spelling and syntax and structure and all of that. The resume is, of course, an overview of your experiences. I know, most people, when they get to applying to law school, have a resume. I would certainly encourage you to create your own resume for the law school application. The reason is most of what you've done could potentially be relevant to, being successful in law school and being a strong member of the legal profession. And so a lot of what you have done could be included on a resume for law school. We don't have a required page length. So unlike applying to most jobs where they want you to limit it to 1 page, you could apply to law school with a 2-page resume. You're gonna list, a lot of the things that you would normally have on a resume: education, extracurricular activities, work experience, volunteer work, leadership, anything else that you think would be relevant for law school, you're welcome to include as well. And generally, you're going to want to start with your college activities and beyond when compiling your resume for law school. The other usually optional piece of the law school application, in addition to the application form, which is required, are addenda. And addenda are short essays that provide additional information to the admissions committee. They're a great option for explaining details that might require more information, such as why there was a dip in your GPA your second year, or just things that are helpful for the admissions committee to know that we might not otherwise learn from your application, like weird things that happen on the LSAT test day. Maybe there's a marching band practicing outside the location where you took it. Generally, addenda are going to relate to certain topics like LSAT and GPA information, diversity, why Iowa. If you do have any character and fitness explanations that need to be disclosed, law school applications will ask about criminal, ethical, and academic violations, then you are required to submit an explanation that includes that. Otherwise, addenda are optional and again, are really good for clearing up assumptions or providing additional information to the admissions committee.
So I meant to say this at the beginning, but everybody is quite welcome to enter any questions you have along the way in the group chat. If you just direct it to everybody, we'll address those along the way, but we'll also have time for questions at the end. So thanks very much, both to Catherine and Amy, for giving an overview of the process to get to law school. I'll introduce again Brian Farrell from the law school. In the past year and a half, TIPI has worked together with the College of Law to become part of the group of schools that are part of the law school's 3+3 program. And we wanted to share a little bit of information with you about how the 3+3 works. Not for everybody, and it does require a significant amount of forward planning, but it is a viable way to complete both an undergraduate degree and your JD in a total of 6 years. So it reduces your total time by 1 year. And the key things to think about are, firstly, that you are still applying to law school with all of the same requirements that any student with coming out of a full 4-year degree would be applying with. So you will be reviewed in a similar way in relation to all of the things that Amy has just talked about. So an LSAT score is required, and they'll be asking for the full suite of admission and application materials. The benefits and the way the 3+3 works is that if you plan ahead, the idea is that you complete all of your BBA course requirements in your first 3 years. And so if you're familiar with one of our major sheets, those are all of the courses that are actually listed on there. It's your gen eds, it's your business core, and it's your major requirements for your particular major. the way the agreement works is that you save any elective hours, all of your non-business electives, all of your additional electives, all those things that aren't specific courses, but that would get you to your 120 hours. You would save all of those for your last year. And what we say at Tippy is that if you get admitted to Iowa Law, we will take the first year of law school credits in satisfaction of your final elective hours to achieve the 120 hours. And for many people, you might achieve them in the first semester. And in that case, then you would technically graduate with your BBA in December. Or if you needed enough electives to take you through your whole first year of law school, you'd graduate with your BBA in May after your first year of law school. So there's 1 year where you're sort of a hybrid student, still undergraduate student, but the credits that you're earning are coming from the College of Law. And then you'll actually have your degree conferred at the end of what is your 4th year. So it's still like a 4-year graduation from your BBA, but you've got your first year of law school finished in that time. Brian, do you have other points to add to that?
Just a few things. And first, I'm just going to reiterate what Jen said, that the 3+3 program, and Tippy is one of our roughly 15 undergraduate partner schools. What it does is it allows you the opportunity to apply to Iowa Law during your junior year. Again, doesn't guarantee admission, but does provide this track to apply to and potentially matriculate to law school earlier. This is not something that we necessarily push students toward, but want to make students aware. Kind of our sense is that there are a few categories of students, a few types of students for whom this might be an appealing option. Non-traditional students, or students who have a lot of college credits coming into their undergraduate program, students who are already very much decided, have done the discernment in terms of the path to law school. This does provide an opportunity to start law school potentially a year earlier, and thus saving some tuition costs and getting into the workforce a year earlier on the back end. Having said that, we in the law school, and certainly I think our partners in Tippy, we're just as happy if you do 4+3, but we realize that this may be a possibility that does appeal to perhaps a limited number of students, and want to make sure that they are aware of this. This does take early planning. I think that this is something that you need to be thinking about early in your undergraduate career, and making curricular decisions to get you to that point, to be able to contemplate the possibility of applying as a 3+3 applicant. Again, I think the biggest thing is to talk with your undergraduate advisors early on about whether this is something that might make sense for you, and if so, what the requirements would be, what you would need to do to get to that point of applying during your junior year. And I guess maybe we can also want to just open it up in case Amy has any comments on this. Jen accurately said, what this does is it allows you to apply a year earlier, and you are applying sort of in the same pool as other applicants. So everything that Amy already said is just as applicable here in this situation.
Yes, and to clarify a few things, so well, as Jen and Brian said, you are considered with the same admission pool as everyone who's applying to all of the JD programs at the law school. So we do require the full suite of application materials. In the case of 3+3 students, I would say that your motivation for law school and your maturity are certainly heightened in our review of your application, because we want to see that this is absolutely the right step for you. And basically the timeline that I mentioned for the law school application, that would basically be moved up 1 year. We do recommend that you apply at the end of your fall semester of the year that you're applying to law school, so that you can include those fall semester grades with your application. And to address the tuition question that came in, you are paying College of Law tuition for that first year at the law program, last year of undergraduate studies, but then you're saving a year in total of tuition towards both your BBA and JD programs.
And I think really for all respects for that year, you really feel like a law student. You know, you're full-time in the College of Law. You sort of left Tippy in a way. It's just that on your transcript, we're taking those first 2 semesters of your law school in satisfaction of your final requirements at Tippy. And certainly a lot of students who are forward planning and are thinking about this might even be in a position to fully finish your degree in 3 years. And that's another option too, is just to, you know, fully draw the line in the sand, earn your BBA in 3 years and go on to law after that, effectively doing the same thing.
And I think maybe it's worth just noting that the numbers for our program, and I think 3+3 programs nationally, are relatively low. I mean, this really is an option for the right student as opposed to, you know, something that we view as the new pipeline to law school.
Great. If you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But otherwise, I think Brian's going to talk a bit about the certificate in human rights.
Yeah, and just want to, again, make you aware that the law school does do some undergraduate teaching through the Center for Human Rights. We offer an undergraduate certificate in human rights, as well as human rights courses taught as part of that certificate. These are essentially the only courses offered by the College of Law to undergraduate students. The certificate requires 18 semester hours. Most of those classes are taught through the law school's HRTS human rights course designation, but that track also includes history and philosophy courses. The individual human rights courses that we teach are open to any student. So you do not have to be a declared certificate student to take an individual human rights course that might be of interest. And you can certainly check out the UI catalog or the Center for Human Rights website to take a look at the courses and certificate information. But I'll show you just briefly the requirements for the certificate in case it is of interest to any of you. It is, again, an 18 semester hour sequence, 9 foundational courses, 1 through philosophy, 1 through history, and then our Intro to Human Rights, which is one of the courses that I teach. And then a combined 6 hours of sort of contemporary issues. We have a course called Global Crises, and then we also have topics courses, which range from 1 to 3 semester hours. And finally, 1 of 2 practical courses, either our Praxis or Advocacy course. To let you know about upcoming human rights courses, in case anybody's interested in just taking one of these to satisfy intellectual curiosity as a one-off or to gain a broader perspective. We teach Introduction to Human Rights online during the summer. I teach it live during the spring as well. So I'm just wrapping up my spring Introduction to Human Rights course. And in the fall, we have a number of courses planned, and I think some of them might be of interest to business students, in particular the one at the top of the list here. This is a relatively new course developed by one of our adjuncts in the College of Law, Aaron Page. He taught this past year a one semester hour course on business and human rights, and we are expanding that to 2 semester hours next year. So Aaron is going to be teaching this topics course in business and human rights. We also will have a course on labor rights during the pandemic, which is going to be taught by staff from the Labor Center, as well as the One Community, One Book topics course, the Global Crisis, and the Human Rights Advocacy courses, which are taught by our core human rights faculty. But again, I think these are topics that may be of interest to Tippy students as a one-off, and perhaps the certificate program would be of interest as well. And you know, again, just noting that this is one of the rare spaces where College of Law affiliated faculty are teaching undergraduate courses. I think it can also give you some sense of, or a stronger connection to the College of Law and understanding how law is made, defined, interpreted, and applied. So feel free to reach out if you have questions about those. And again, the Center for Human Rights website has general information as well.
Thanks very much, Brian. We'll turn now to Professor Rantanen to talk a bit about business and the law school, being a business student and a law student.
All right, so I'm going to talk a bit about business law using Iowa law as an example, since we have a really substantial business law program. A lot of our students are pursuing some form of business law track, and something like 80+% of our students will take business associations at some point. Even if they're not going to be business law focused, it's really helpful to have some kind of understanding of basic business law principles, and that's a great introduction to them. So our business law classes cover a lot of ground. There's a lot of different topics that they cover, from securities law to entity formation to competition law to intellectual property law, employment law, tax law. There's a lot of different topics to study on the business side in law school. So here are just some examples of some of the business law courses that we teach at the law school. In addition to these, there's others, and there's also seminars that are smaller courses of about 10 to 12 students that focus on specific topics like capitalism or corporate governance and control that really dig into some of those kinds of issues. So all of these courses really dive into the details. They really want you to come out of the course with a thorough understanding and knowledge of the areas of law, but they also think about them from a broader perspective, typically thinking about how people understand the law, how these laws actually function in the real world, as well as thinking about them from a policy perspective. What are some of the consequences of why you have these laws, or reasons why you have the laws, as well as potentially some of the negative sides. So what's a perverse incentive that a particular tax law might create, for example. So most of our students who pursue a business law focus are going to ultimately seek to advise businesses. That's kind of their standard typical goal. Typically, they'll start out working for a law firm that advises businesses on different kinds of business-related issues, such as employment law, entity formation, forming, for example, corporations or LLCs. But a lot of them will go in-house at some point during their career, working within a business entity itself to actually provide counsel by being an employee of the business. So lots of businesses like John Deere, for example, Collins Aerospace, they have attorneys within them that advise them on business law issues. So if you want to flip to the next slide, one of the places where you can learn more about business law at Iowa is on the Innovation Business and Law Center's website. So this is a center at the University of Iowa that focuses specifically on business and typically cutting edge issues of technology, but we also cover a lot of ground related to business law more generally. So on the website, you can find content about our speaker series, which is a themed series that runs every semester on a different general area of the law. This semester, it was innovations in the business of lawyering. Last semester, it was transportation in the law. And next semester, it'll be the business side of sustainability in the law. So focusing specifically on sustainability issues as they relate to businesses and the legal intersection of that. So in addition to all that stuff, it also has more descriptions of the Colleges of Law business courses, so you can see a little bit more about them there. And there's also videos of graduates under the affiliated student organizations or student experiences tab where the videos of graduates talk about their defining experiences in law school, as well as their future career plans. So if you'd like to see them talk about those kinds of experiences, again, all with a business law focus, you can go check out the webpage.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a great resource to consider. I think that Andy is now going to join us to talk about combining degrees and also what is it like out there in the real world in practice.
Thanks very much. Well, I've certainly combined a lot of degrees in my day. I went to Tippy for my undergrad and then went to law school at the UI College of Law. In my second year there, I started an MBA degree and became a joint JD MBA student. And that was very useful and a lot of fun. Later, I came back for a PhD as well. I don't recommend that everybody do 13 years of college, but the JD MBA has been a very good combination for me. And I have friends who have done other combined degrees, whether it was a JD with a Master's of Accounting or you know, a Master's of Health Administration or a JD. There are a lot of different opportunities. I have 2 teaching assistants right now that are in combined degree programs, one in a specialty Master's in Business Analytics. So that's a really exciting area. And then another one in Sport and Rec Management. So I think there are a lot of ways that a combined degree program can help you. One, if you have genuine interest in a couple of different areas, as I have, if you're intellectually curious, this is a good way to build more capacity and knowledge in those areas, as well as saving yourself some time in tuition. So you'll want to look at each individual program. But with the JD MBA, I was able to complete both of those degrees in 4 years, essentially saving myself a year of school and tuition. So that's a very nice thing to have. Advantages that a business graduate has in law practice. I think there are many. So like Professor Rantanen said, a lot of lawyers will go into private practice first thing out of law school. And some folks will work with primarily individuals, but at least in Iowa, kind of the bread and butter of many law practices is working with local businesses and small businesses and startups. So having a background in business is very helpful when you're helping people start up a business, because you understand budgeting, you understand a little bit of accounting, a little bit of finance, marketing, and you can sort of understand what they need in terms of counseling and what they're going through. It's also helpful with working with nonprofits, which obviously have a need to generate enough funds to stay in business. Sandy Boyd always said, "No money, no mission." So it's nice to have that kind of background. As your career progresses and matures, there are different options that will also open up to you with either an undergrad in business or an advanced degree in business, such as going in-house with a company. When you are an in-house counsel with a company, you're not only doing their legal work, but you're often a part of the management team as well, and eventually part of possibly their board of directors. And so having business knowledge in addition to legal knowledge is really going to help you move up. And I see that a lot. I teach MBA classes in our online and executive and our night MBA program. And I have a lot of attorneys who are in those programs because they have moved in-house or they have started their own business, and they need that extra business knowledge to move up or to be successful. So if you guys can do that in a combined program, you can save yourself time and money and just sort of bandwidth, because you're not doing it while you're working, full-time at something else. So I think that can be really, really useful. My own career, I started out in a small firm, worked there for about a year, did a lot with local businesses, was able to kind of use some of my business degree and connections to go work for a larger firm. Again, probably 80% of the work I did was with businesses. Then I was in-house counsel for a while, and now I have my own practice. And so I work with a few individuals, but again, I primarily work with small companies, and the business background gives you a lot of credibility and a lot of currency. So to the third point, what is the legal market like in Iowa right now? Well, I think we're having a lot of changes right now. In the last month, things have become, more uncertain. But I can tell you that even if there is a significant economic contraction, that I think, you know, we will come out of the other end of it with a good demand for lawyers and legal services. My own law firm, which is a very part-time endeavor, I am on track to set a record for revenue this month because of some of my clients are not in their offices or in their hospitals or wherever it is they work, or not playing professional sports because some of my clients are athletes. They're working on other business opportunities, and so I'm actually incredibly busy assisting them from home. I think the economic downturn is going to be very hard on people who go to court a lot, because the courthouses are closed for now, essentially. But business attorneys will always be in demand. So I think the market has looked stronger over the past few years. My friends who work at big firms that hire each year are hiring aggressively, and I think they're happy to see business graduates go into law school and coming out with that combined experience.
Andy, we got a question from Eli here. Do most companies restrict in-house lawyers from also having outside clients?
Good question. Yeah. Sorry, I tried to switch over to the chat and it went wonky on me. Typically, an in-house lawyer is going to be an employed attorney that works for that company, and they would really just be working for that company and would not have outside clients. Kind of the same thing if you work in a government role. Typically there's, you know, if you're in the Attorney General's office or, you know, working for an administrative agency, your client is the state or the federal government, and you don't do any outside work. But I am seeing an increasing trend of people who have part-time general counsel practices. So in other words, they work deeply with one client, and that may be, you know, 20 to 40% of their business. So they are general counsel to that company, and then have their own private practice as well. And so that's been an interesting trend, and I'm seeing more of that.
Andy, another question here from Elle. How did you decide to stay at Iowa for all of your degrees? And how did you pick a law school initially?
Good question. So I grew up in Iowa, and it was an easy choice for me to come here for undergrad. And then I enjoyed my analytics program at Tippy, and as I was getting ready to graduate, we had an economic contraction, and the job market was not very good for analytics folks right then and there. So I had always wanted to go to law school, and I decided to go full speed ahead with that. I applied to a number of different law schools and talked with a number of them. I went and visited Northwestern Law School in Chicago, a beautiful, wonderful place, and was very interested in going there. What I found was that Iowa law was by far the most collegial, most hospitable, and friendly place. The economics of it were also excellent. So I was fortunate to receive a scholarship offer, and the cost of living is low. And that really helped make up the decision for me when I saw the cost of living in Chicago and thought about the kind of time to pay back on the degree. So I was very happy to go to law school here at Iowa. It's a top ranked school, and it's very, very affordable, especially if you look at the cost of schools in larger metro areas. And then the MBA was also something I was always interested in. And at the time, most MBA programs required that you go out and work for at least 2 years full time before you could start an MBA program. Iowa's JD MBA program waived that requirement for JD students. So that just sounded like a great opportunity to gain that knowledge right away, and I was really happy to do that.
And it looks like in the chat, you might see Amy just posted information about the virtual visits that they're doing for the rest of this semester or while we're online, if you did want to visit Iowa Law without leaving home.
it's a very nice place. I've obviously spent a lot of time there, and it's you know, the professors are excellent, and you get a really, really high quality education.
I think that might be the end of the formal part. Is that the end of our slides, Andy?
That is the end of our slides. Yeah.
We're very happy to take any questions you have. We'll open it back up to the group view, and you can either type them in chat or feel free to just turn your mic off, and you can tell us your question as well.
Yeah, looks like we have a question about opportunities for the Joint Masters of Accounting JD. I think that is an excellent combination. My fellow teaching assistant who did that had a lot of really good and well-paying job offers. I have a lot of friends in the accounting world, and knowledge of the tax laws is really changing right now and really important, and having those two things is very good. I think it's very attractive to large accounting firms and consulting firms, so I think that's a good thing.
Jason, do you see many people that are in the joint JD MAC program who are part of the IBL as well?
So we have relatively few students who are doing the JD MAC, one every couple of years, so it's not our most common combined degree. It is for people who have very specific interests. So I know of one student who very specifically chose to do that combination because of the value she thought that it would add. We also have students who are doing the JD Master of Business Analytics, which is a growing area as well. So that's another combination that we've developed. And then I don't recall if we have any students in the JD Masters of Finance program, but that's another option as well. To be honest, a lot of our combined degree students now are pursuing a JD Masters of Health Administration, which deals with the business side of healthcare. And so that's become a particularly popular route, given the strength of the MHA program as well, and the opportunities to get a lot of the business side of healthcare.
And then Andy, you got a shout out.
Thank you, Mr. Ole. I appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoyed the class. I haven't I'm not teaching any undergrad, other law classes yet, but I'm really excited about the IBL theme for next semester on business and sustainability and law, because we just got Intro to Law approved for the as one of the electives for their certificate in sustainability. So we added some pretty cool stuff. I'm working on a lecture on benefit corporations. We've added environmental law, and I'm going to be attending a lot of those IBL sessions so I can learn more about sustainability, and maybe at some point I can show up as a guest speaker in something like that. So I'll definitely keep you posted on my website.
So thanks, Andy. I didn't know about that. That's really useful.
Yeah, I was really excited to hear you say that. I'm like, oh, this is perfect.
Amy L. has a great question about this semester's grades.
Yes, I know this is something that's on everyone's minds as they're thinking about potential graduate study and specifically law. So rest assured, we completely understand how unprecedented this semester is, and we are not going to penalize any applicants for pass-fail grades. I've talked to many of my colleagues at other law schools, and I know they are going to plan to handle grades the exact same way. So I would expect there to be no penalties for pass-fail grades for this semester. LSAC this week also announced their policy for the transcripts that they recalculate through their credential assembly service, and they will actually label this the coronavirus semester. So it will be very clear to law schools when we're reviewing your applications and your transcripts that we'll know that this was a semester that we're treating differently. And obviously it will affect some of your GPA calculations. I think one result might be, because we won't have quite the same standardization of the GPA calculations from this semester as we do for other semesters, is that some schools might tend to place a little bit more emphasis on the LSAT if they feel that I wouldn't say necessarily just from this semester, but for schools that have already also postponed their fall semesters and might have students with a longer time of disrupted grades, that for those students, the LSAT might tend to have a little bit more weight if we feel that we can't get, an accurate reflection of, grades, but we won't penalize anyone for taking pass-fail grades.
Yes, big thumbs up for that, Amy. Thank you.
Can I just add that the Iowa law has gone mandatory pass-fail for this semester, as have many other law schools. So it's something that we're very cognizant of, and I don't think that it's something we are all really well aware of.
Other questions that folks want to get out? We've got a few minutes.
I'll add two. So in relation to the GPA question, I don't know if anyone on here was scheduled to take the March or April LSAT administrations this year, but LSAC did cancel those administrations. As of now, they're planning to hold the June and July administrations, but of course, it remains to be seen if those might be disrupted. They are offering students who are unable to take the April LSAT because of the cancellation the opportunity to take a different version of the LSAT called LSAT Flex. And I imagine that will be continued to be often offered if more administrations are disrupted. And we will take the LSAT Flex and weigh it the same that we would otherwise weigh the LSAT.
Nice. Couple of questions here. Latest to take the LSAT if we plan to apply this fall. I'll defer to the admissions folks.
Sure. So I would recommend taking so for kind of the first consideration, I would probably take it by November, like the end of November. And then, once you get kind of past the end of this calendar year, it's going to be a little bit late, maybe a potential retest early in the 2021 calendar year, but certainly if you can take it over the summer or later in the fall, that would be recommended.
Had a question on how do we recommend earning scholarship money for law school? Personally, for me, I think it was a combination of LSAT and GPA that helped, but I would also, maybe Amy or Jennifer might want to talk about this as well.
Sure. So for the merit scholarships that we offer through the admissions process, LSAT and GPA are the most important factors. I mentioned during my presentation that we weigh your numbers about equally with your qualitative skills in the admissions process. The scholarship decision is weighted much more heavily towards the LSAT and the GPA. Timing is also especially important because we also award scholarships on a rolling basis. It's not concurrent with your admissions decision, but it subsequently follows. So applying early is especially important for scholarship consideration. There are a number of good resources for pursuing outside scholarships. American Bar Association, which is the accrediting agencies for law school, and LSAC, along with some other websites, have some really good information about outside scholarships. And then I can address the question too about applying before your LSAT comes in. So yes, our application for fall 2021 will open in early September, and the application portal is separate from the credential assembly service and taking the LSAT. So you can go ahead and submit your application form along with your supporting documentation like the person statement and the resume before you have an LSAT score, before your transcripts get to LSAC, before your letters of recommendation get there. Your file won't be complete until we have all of those other required materials because they are required for our application process. But you can go ahead and submit your application form and your personal statement and your resume whenever you're ready after the application opens.
Thank you.
Great. So we're at 1:30. Somebody had asked if we could share the slides, and I think that we would be happy to do that. I've taken a note of all the folks that were participating today, and so I'll just follow up with the PowerPoint there. And that also has the names of all the folks that were presenting too. And I think, hopefully, I'm speaking on behalf of us all, but everybody's happy to answer questions and be a resource for you as you make your decisions. It's a big decision, and it requires a lot of forward planning. And so I'm grateful for everybody that was able to be on today to share their expertise, and for you all for giving your time to learn about it as well.
Yeah, my pleasure. And if anybody has questions, any Tippy students have questions about pre-law stuff, I'm more than happy to meet with you over Zoom or answer questions over email during this time of social distancing. So I've got folks that I've been working with, and I'm continuing to work with them. And if it's your first time and you just want to chat and say, hey, you know, should I go to law school, you know, and talk about that, I'm more than happy to do that.
Great. Well, thanks to everybody as well. We'll let you all get back to your Friday afternoon, and appreciate you spending some time with us.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Nice to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.